Hi guys, welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to teach you how to learn the fretboard. I am going to use a little trick that a Sith inspired me. It's called the rule of two. So I apologize, I know that was a little cheesy. Still, today I'm going to teach you how to learn the fretboard. So you will learn the linear method. So going from the nut all the way up to the 12th fret and then starting over. I am going to show you the rule of two. It helped me. I'm going to teach you the vertical method. So starting at the top string and then going down all the strings. We're going to use the circle of fifths to show you this. I'm going to show you a little power chord trick. Now, what we have to understand first is the tuning. Okay? You have to know your strings in the standard position. And when you go from the 5th fret on the E string, it tunes down to the open A. When you go from the 5th fret on the A string, it tunes down to the open D. 5th fret on the D down to the open G. But it doesn't go 5th fret on the G string down to a D. You have to adjust that back to the 4th. Okay, and then it works again 5th to the E string. If you kept this 5 and O pattern going all the way down, and this was a 5, well, this note is a C, so you would have to tune the B string to a C. And then if you have tuned the B string to a C, you would have to tune the E string to an F. And very simply, the reason we did that was to make chord playing easier. Now, when I go to my circle of fifths app here, really cool, the E string, then the A, then the D, then the G. Naturally underneath that is the C. Naturally underneath that is the F. So using that 5th fret to open, this works perfect. There's a reason why our guitar is tuned that way, and there's also a reason why the bottom two strings got shifted, because this is how it naturally works. G to a C, C to an F, okay? Playing chords would have been more difficult. So bar chords and a lot of the open chords. So we just shifted those two strings and it just made life easy. But this is the pattern the way it's supposed to be, and I need you to understand that for this. And I also need you to understand, because the guitar is tuned the way it is, there's going to be a third string to second string shift in that pattern. And I'm going to show you what I mean. And if you understand that, you were so far ahead of the game. So we're going to do the linear method first, going that way, in a line. Okay. There are half steps and whole steps. And what do I mean by that? So I'm going to take the G note here on the third fret, first string. And when I go a half step, it's a G flat. Or sorry, G sharp. My mistake. And when I go a whole step, it's an A. So one fret is a half step, then there's the whole step. If I want to find notes that don't have any sharps or flats, so I can go E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. Well, there were no sharps and no flats, and I just went E to E. Actually, I went F. And I did that real quick. And I can also take D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. So I just went D to D. How do I know to do that? Well, I use something I call the rule of two. There are only two half steps. When you're looking for notes without any sharps or flats, there are two patterns. So, and it's coincidentally on the bottom two strings, E and F, and on string 2, B and C. So B, C, E, F. B, C, E, F. Rule of two. So I can take any random note, A, on the third string, second fret. A, B, whole step. Well, I know that B is the rule of 2 here, so B to C is half step. Then a whole step, D, E. Well, I know that E is down here, part of my rule of 2. So E and F's half step. F to G, G to A. So I just randomly went A to A because I know that E and F and B and C. And tomorrow, when I'm going, shit, what were those 2 notes again? Rule of 2. I always remember it's my bottom 2 strings on the open and, okay? So that is the linear way of finding notes. Now we're going to go the vertical way. So I'm gonna show you a quick trick using, I call it the power chord trick, and I'm just gonna use real easy G here on the 6th string and 5th string. It's the G power chord. G is my root note, D is my next note down, and if I were to go 1 string and make it a 3-string power chord, so now I'm gonna put my pinky there on the 4th string, that is also a root note. G. So making the power chord shape a 3-string power chord, and you skip a string, that is always going to be your root note again. So G to G, A to A. Again, string 6 and 4. B to B. Now it also works when you go down to your 5-string power chord, right? C, skip a string, C, D, D, E. Okay, so the string skipping method works if you know your power chord shapes. Okay, now we're going to go back to that circle of 5ths trick, and remember we've tuned the bottom strings, shifted them, so really, B and E should be C and F. So underneath this open G string should be a C. If I go to the G note up here, underneath it is a C. Right? Because that's my G chord. I'll take the distortion off. That's my G chord. And this is my C chord. So G, C, and then underneath the C we said is an F. Okay? Very randomly, if I'm going to take a B up here. Well, I know naturally the B is on top of an E, right? And of course, 7th fret, that makes sense, the E power chord. Well, underneath the E, we said was an A. Underneath the A, we said was a D. Underneath the D, we said was a G, but I'm on the 3rd string already, and I'm going to the 2nd string, and I know that there's the tuning shift. So underneath the D, if I want to find the G, I do have to go up a half step. Underneath the G is supposed to be the C, according to the circle of 5ths, and so that makes sense because C, 8th fret bar chord, power chord on top. Whatever your top note is, your bottom note has to be, right? A, B, C, G, C, G, C, okay? I'm going faster, I apologize. And take another random note here. A, B. Underneath the B, on the 2nd fret, on the 5th string, underneath that I know is an E. Right? According to my tuning. So I don't want to keep going on and on because I don't want to, I tend to convolute things by over talking them. Okay? But again, understanding the circle of 5ths, how it's supposed to be, understanding why we shifted the bottom 2 strings, and where the shift happens between strings 2 and 3, where it's really going to get you, will help you find notes going up and down. And then your rule of 2, you can take any random note on the string, and you now know that a B and C is a half step, the E and F is a half step, and everything else is a whole step. And when you know your notes without the sharps and flats, you'll be able to find the notes with the sharps and flats. Guys, I hope I haven't really made a convoluted mess out of that, but that is how I see it. Again, it's going to take some time, but that is how you learn the notes on the fretboard. I don't expect, I mean, I never just memorized it. I don't look at the fretboard and go, oh, look, that note's, no, but I can figure any note out really fast. And when I'm playing, it's having these patterns and these rules in my head that help me make decisions really quick. It takes time, but it starts now, okay? This time in a year, you're going to kind of get it a little bit maybe. And this time 2 years from now, you're going to know it with the odd flub. 3 years from now, you're going to forget that I taught you, but you're going to know it inside and out. And that's okay. I'm good with it. You guys have a great day.